Ghana has proposed a bill that would imprison those that engage in same-sex intercourse. Gay sex remains a crime in Tanzania, and same-sex relationships are outlawed in Zambia. What have you said to the president and plan to say to other leaders on this trip?
A great deal of work in my career has been to address human rights issues, equality issues across the board, including as it relates to the LGBT community.
It's a shame and a disgrace that men and women of that caliber have lost their balls.
It'd be as well for all of us to hold our hands and await the decision of the court before any action is taken.
So those who claim that all of a sudden our economy will collapse, first and foremost, the evidence shows that it is not true. When you have a president that is bold, like we say in our national anthem, to defend this country and stand for something. But when you have yes men and puppets of the gay lobby run this country.
You think the president is not bold, our president?
On this matter?
Yes.
The president has no balls.
What's up, guys and girls? It's good to see you today on the SpeaknsEE Show. Like, subscribe, click that notification button so when I get information out, you can get information in. Sam George, once again, unbelievable. If you haven't seen Sam George once, or you've seen him in all of his doings, this one explains it all throughout the video. It's fire on top of fire on top of fire. You just got to see the whole thing, and I'm going to sit here and watch it with you. It's kind of long, so if you're doing your dishes, that's fine, whatever. But grab a drink if you're just going to sit down and watch it. I'm going to watch it with you. May chime in through here and there, but may not, just because Sam George says everything that literally needs to be said. I can't really add a whole lot to it, but you're going to know by the end of this video, you are going to have every in and out of what's going on in the anti-LGBTQ law in Ghana that you're going to need to know in the future. And there are a lot of countries literally right now taking this law, scratching out Ghana and putting their name on it and submitting it to their president as well. And it's getting passed. So let's grab a drink. Love you all, praying for you all, and go Africa.
Uganda enacted anti-LGBTQ+ legislation that led to the World Bank halting any new funding for the country. This was a significant move that highlighted the potential economic consequences of such laws. Fast forward to a Monday, when Ghana's Ministry of Finance issued a stern warning. The proposed anti-LGBTQ+ bill could jeopardize a staggering $3.8 billion in World Bank funding. This could potentially derail the $3 billion International Monetary Fund bailout program agreed to in the same year, 2023. The West, particularly the United States, France, and other westernized countries, found themselves in a stalemate. Ghana, in enacting its anti-LGBTQ+ laws, dared the United States to openly condemn them, potentially giving Ghana a reason to seek partnerships elsewhere. While the Western world grappled with this challenge, China was ready to step in, willing to pick up where the United States stepped out. The BRICS, an association of 5 major emerging national economies, had its eyes on Ghana, but there's more. Over the past few years, China, Russia, and Africa have all cracked down on Western indoctrinations of the LGBTQ+ advocates. New alliances have formed as the BRICS gains momentum. The overstepping boundaries that have worked so well for the West in the past are being left behind as a new Africa emerges. In summary, the global LGBTQ+ rights debate has become a complex, multifaceted issue. It's not just about human rights, but also about sovereignty, cultural diversity, and the power dynamics between the East and the West. The anti-LGBTQ+ laws in Africa, the West's response, and the subsequent shift in global alliances all underscore the complexities of this ongoing debate. As we continue to follow this story, one thing is clear: the human rights of Ghana may not look like the human rights of America, and they shouldn't, because every culture is different among itself. This is a critical reminder that the conversation surrounding LGBTQ+ rights is as diverse as the people it affects, and it's a conversation that is far from over.
The bill, one of the harshest, according to many, of its kind in Africa, still has to be validated by the president before entering into law, which observers believe is unlikely before a general election in December 2024. Just a few hours after that bill was passed, a spokesperson for the United States Department of State, that's Matthew Miller, has come to say that the United States is deeply troubled by the passage of the legislation. And he's saying that this will indeed affect a lot of persons who live in Ghana.
They're not invited in Ghana's local politics.
Seeing exactly how, Uganda was treated in some measure after they had passed their bill, are there concerns that Ghana might face that same treatment?
I expect the leaders of our country, the president of our country, to stand shoulder high and tell the American people, you either do business with us on our terms or you can walk. If you think that because we are protecting our cultural values and saying no to LGBTQ, you want to lose $100 million in profit, pack up and go. Another company will come into Ghana and do business. Ghana is a fertile ground for business. Look, Africa must begin to assert our rights. We're not puppets and stooges of the West. Carter buys over $1 billion of military hardware every year from America. The punishment for homosexuality in Carter is death. In Nigeria, the punishment in your law for same-sex marriage is 14 years imprisonment. The maximum in Ghana's law is just 3 years. Has Nigeria's economy collapsed? Has Uganda's economy collapsed? We need to begin to stand. The American economy would not run and the Western economies would not run without African raw material. I think it's time we begin to look at adding value to our own raw material. If we begin to assert ourselves, these guys will know that they have to deal with us on equal terms. The best economists on Wall Street are Ghanaians and Nigerians. They're not better than us. We sit in the same classroom with them and beat them every day. Academically, intellectually, we're better than them. But it's simply because we've not asserted our rights as Africans, because we want to go for cheap hand-me-downs. Let's bear in mind, the people who lose their identity have lost their nation. The European and American communities and society have failed because they've redefined family. They've lost the sense of what it means to be family. And that's what they want. It's that kind of mental aberration and mental disorder that they want to import into our countries. You cannot continue to deal with cultural imperialism and say that it is a secondary matter. Our identity as Ghanaians is a principal matter for us. And that's why we've pushed this bill. Because look, the Ghana AIDS Commission in 2021 spent $200 million buying antiretroviral drugs to take care of HIV/AIDS for people who choose to have sex, men who choose to have sex with men. And so the government had to spend $200 million. Now, do you know how many school buildings in my constituency $200 million would have built? Or how many hospital beds that would have created? And so when somebody says that it is not a pressing issue, it's because they don't understand the full effect of homosexuality on society. We're dealing with getting enough beds for our women to give birth when they are pregnant. And we should now begin to divert those resources to stitch up the backsides of men who have chosen to go and have sex with men when they begin to have anal tears and anal warts. I mean, why should we be spending resources on that? We should be channeling the resources into areas that we need. Go and check the American system and see how many people are committing suicide because of the effect of homosexuality. The CDC says that homosexuals are 400% more likely to be suicidal. Do you know the effect of suicide on the GDP of a country? Do you know the fact that the young man who walked into a school in the United States 3 months ago and shot up 22 kids was transgender? And this all came from a mental disorder because of him having undergone a gender change or gender reassignment when he was 8 years old? Just look, even on the African continent, which country has the highest crime rate? South Africa. Why? Because they've embraced homosexuality as one of the growing factors in that country. Look at every country that has embraced this and look at what has happened to their crime rate. This has ripple effects on society as a whole. We're not going to import the sickness and troubles of another country. We've got enough on our hands in Ghana and in Africa. And so people have a fundamental right to a fair trial in a court. So if you're a member of if you choose to be a member of the LGBTQ community and carry out an illegal activity, one thing I can guarantee you is that you're entitled to a fair trial in a court of law. Your right to practice homosexuality is not a fundamental right. It's not a human right. There is no right in Ghana's constitution, and I'm yet to see any right in any international legislation that confers a right on people because of their sexual preference or gender identity. There is no international law as we speak today, including the UN Declaration on Human Rights, that gives a right on the basis of your sexual preference. But let me be clear on one last thing. As framers of this bill, we're not interested in what anybody does in the confines of their bedroom. I got woken up this morning by a call from your producer. I was in my bedroom, respectfully lying by my wife. Nobody's asked me what I did with my wife, and it's nobody's business what happens between me and my wife in my bedroom. But when you decide as an individual to bring what is supposed to remain in the privacy of your bedroom into public space and begin to advocate for your personal proclivity, then public policy will apply to you. And so nobody's going into anybody's bedroom. But when you decide to bring what ought to stay in your bedroom into the public space, then we'll have a public conversation about it.
Join us again, and let's.
Will that happen before the elections? Do you see that happening before the elections?
Yes, per our constitution, within 7 days since after we passed the bill, and we passed the bill 2 days ago, it has to be transmitted from Parliament to the office of the President. The President has 7 to 14 days to assent to the bill for it to become law. If he chooses not to assent to it, he has to write back to Parliament within 7 to 14 days, stating why he is refusing to assent to it. And then as sponsors of the bill, we have multiple options available to us. We can decide to use public pressure to compel the president to rescind his decision. Or my favorite position is to bring the bill back to Parliament for a public vote, an open public vote per the standing orders of Parliament. If I'm able to get 2/3 of the members of Parliament to vote in favor of my bill, the president can keep his green pen. It will become a law. Without the president's signature, it becomes law if I can get 2/3. I'm confident that we'll get 2/3 because when we had the vote in Parliament, there was not a single vote on the record against this bill. And I'm confident that 275 members in Ghana's Parliament, I will get more than 2/3 to support my bill.
Your Excellencies, I'm aware that last week's bipartisan passage by Parliament of the Proper Human Sexual Rights and Ghanaian Family Values Bill on a private member's motion has raised considerable anxieties in certain quarters of the diplomatic community and among some friends of Ghana that she may be turning her back on her hitherto enviable, long-standing record on human rights observance and attachment to the rule of law. I want to assure you that no such backsliding will be contemplated or occasioned. I think it will serve little purpose to go at this stage into the details of the origin of this proposed law, which is yet to reach my desk. But suffice it to say that I have learned that today the challenge has been mounted in the Supreme Court by a concerned citizen to the constitutionality of the proposed legislation. In the circumstances, it will be as well for all of us to hold our hands and await the decision of the court before any action is taken. The operation of the institutions of the Ghanaian state will determine the future trajectory of the rule of law and human rights compliance in our country.
The Proper Human Sexual Rights and Ghanaian Family Values Bill, as has been passed now, waiting for presidential assent. You do know now that the president had said that there's some challenge that has been mounted at the Supreme Court, and so we should hold our horses.
From a man who said the battle was the Lord's, from a man who pledged before the clergy that LGBTQ will not happen under his watch, there is no greater tool to curbing the menace and scourge of LGBTQ than signing this bill into law.
Na omokan ebia some bill no it puts a charge on government na omoye no free hwa, then it opens the way for the president to be happy to sign the agreement. And so me personally, Benjin this and a man is a man, a woman is a woman. Me believe say nipa what me sorry ka say me feeli wo me mu say me oba. And so ya wo me be mind me cause sa no my oba. They be I mean, nature created us man and woman. And Nyame Boyano, he knew what he was doing when he created us like that. And so if you ask me, my personal faith is against it.
And you should know that he's going to be standing against the sovereign will of the Ghanaian people who voted him to serve the whims and caprices of his friends, not the friends of Ghana. Because the friends of Ghana will not insist that Ghana should sell her cultural heritage, her cultural identity, and her values for mere pittance, $700 million a year. If they have received any such communication, and today's date is the 5th of March.
Right.
It is 8:39 a.m. I am daring them to from any of the IMF or the World Bank that speaks to these issues and says that they are going to withhold. These are issues being created by Ghanaians who are seeking to serve a certain parochial interest, Johnny. And we must begin to call them and ask them, how much is the innocence of Ghanaian children? Because listen, this whole thing is about protecting the innocence of our children. We must begin to ask the officers in the government who are seeking to serve the whims and caprices of the gay lobby. We must begin to ask them, how much is the innocence of Ghanaian children? How much is Ghana's cultural heritage? Is it worth $700 million a year? Is that really what it is worth?
Professor H. Kwesi Prempeh, who also sits at the top of the CDD, yesterday put on Facebook that I support this 100% human sexual rights and family values levy to be imposed on all religious organizations to make up for any fiscal shortfall in Government of Ghana receipts flowing from passage of the anti-LGBTQ bill. Talk is cheap. First, he goes at the church and religious organizations, but they're also stating their stance against this proper human sexual rights and Ghanaian family values bill. What do you say to the CDD and their leadership?
Well, I've put this on record that the CDD's advocacy is financial. I mean, what they're doing is influenced by what they are getting from someone. Oh yeah, it's all about money. The CDD is funded. That's right. They're funded by, and this advocacy, all the work they've done with the gay lobby, the so-called group of 18, they are Ghana's gay lobby. I mean, it's funded by the gay lobby and pro-LGBTQ groups in the US. They can't run away from it. So let people not think that the CDD is doing an altruistic job and that Professor Gajepo is interested in doing academic research. This is financial. It's financial. Look, purely financial. And I'm telling you this, every one of us involved in this debate has an interest. There's nobody in this whole conversation who doesn't have an interest. Right. I have an interest.
And what's your interest?
My interest is the protection of Ghanaian cultural values and the protection of the innocence of my children and the children of Ghana.
Okay.
That's my interest.
And their interest is money.
Their interest is money. It's financial. Simple. They cannot deny it. But so, Johnny, we need to begin to call out everyone. Like I said, President Akufo-Addo has got an interest in refusing to sign the bill. The president has checked out. He has absolutely no interest in the issues that bother you and I as ordinary Ghanaians. No, for the sake of our children, we must be willing to have, for want of a better phrase, borrowing from Kennedy Japan, a showdown on this matter with the president and those in government who think that family ties and financial benefits trump the innocence, the need to protect the innocence of Ghana's children.
The National Peace Council, the boss, he was here on hot issues. He said they have not taken a position yet on all of what you are doing. How does that sound to you?
The Peace Council is a disgrace and a shame. I've said this before and I'm saying it again.
Why do you say that?
The Peace Council is one of the biggest problems of this country. They are hypocrites. Extremely hypocritical. We've seen the posture of the Peace Council. The Peace Council has become a very political organization. It should be disbanded for the sanctity of Ghana's peace. The Peace Council is a threat to our peace as a country.
That's a serious thing to say.
It's a bunch of hypocrites who have sold their conscience, like the way Esau sold his birthright for a bowl of porridge. the men and women who sit on the Peace Council, if they have conscience and if they fear the gods that they say they serve and worship, they should bow their heads in shame.
They said they don't want to go beyond their remit, their mandate. They want to stay within their mandate.
It's a shame and a disgrace that men and women of that caliber have lost their balls. And that's why I say they serve no purpose and no use to this country. Look, we need to begin to call out institutions and individuals in this country who are failing this country. The Peace Council, what did they say when 8 Ghanaians were killed in the 2020 election?
I have not heard them.
It shows you how useless they are. It shows you how useless they have become as an institution. Look, and we will sit down and continue to celebrate this mediocrity until they create a disaster in our country. But some of us are willing to begin to sacrifice our lives to bring sanctity into this country. That the speaker is having to pay lawyers personally to represent him.
He has been sued for doing his work.
For doing his work.
Yes,
for this bill. Yes. By a lady called Amanda Odoy. Yet another puppet of the gay lobby.
Slow down.
No, she's a puppet of the gay lobby. She's been funded and used by the gay lobby to do what she's doing. Techiwa Menu, Professor Techiwa Menu, is on record to have told journalists on the 22nd of February this year that President Akufo-Addo is the one who has asked them to go to court. Professor Techiwa Menu said President Akufo-Addo told them at CDD that he is against the bill and has advised them and urged them to go to court to challenge the bill. I'm not saying this. Techiwa Menu told journalists this at a press engagement at the CDD on the 22nd of February. So don't be surprised the things that are going on. Don't be. I mean, this is the country we live in.
The concerns about the financial implications.
Yes.
I want to go back to that conversation because a lot of people are asking here, and they say, look, how else can we survive if we decide that we say, okay, we are going ahead with this? Where else do we go? Because we are flat on our stomachs.
Johnny, there are two responses to this.
Right.
Uganda's economy is smaller than Ghana's economy.
Right.
Way smaller. Uganda had a president for all his wrongs. The one right thing you can say about M27, Yoweri Museveni, is very simple. He thinks that this is a mental aberration, which it is, and has gone ahead to sign a very punitive law. In fact, Uganda's law will punish you with death. Death.
Yes.
Ours is talking 3 years maximum. Day is death. There have been all of this back and forth and bashing from all the other places. The EIU projects Uganda's economy to be the 8th fastest growing economy in Africa in 2024. That's Uganda's economy. Uganda is preparing to float a Eurobond. So what has happened to Uganda? You have countries like Kenya who are in the process. In fact, the Kenyan MP, George Kaluma, reached out to me for a copy of the bill in Ghana.
Okay, so they can learn from it and see.
He took our bill and just changed the Ghana and put Kenya.
Finish.
Yes. And that's what is in Kenya. And that's what Kenya has passed.
Kenya has passed it.
Oh, yes.
Of course.
Yes.
Our law. Our bill.
Our bill. Take the Kenyan law and take Ghana's bill and see what it is.
So if others are learning from us,
and Kenya has gone ahead and is getting disbursements from the same IMF. Kenya is in an IMF program. So those who claim that all of a sudden our economy will collapse, first and foremost, the evidence shows that it is not true. Ghana's economy is not worth $700 million a year. Because $3.8 million over 5 years is what? $700 million.
That's right.
So the question we should ask ourselves, Johnny, is even how are we in this mess? Because it's not every government that automatically wakes up and goes to the IMF. You go to the IMF because you've messed up your economy.
That's right. You need support. You need help.
So the people who messed up the economy, instead of being humble enough and being repentant and contrite on their mess of the economy, are rather being braggadocious and telling us that but the economy is messed up and the only way to fix the economy is to sell the innocence. The only thing we have left is the innocence of our children. We are selling it for $700. They have They have collateralized Get Fund, collateralized NHIS. They've collateralized ESLA. Now they are going to collateralize for money the innocence of Ghana's children and Ghana's cultural heritage. Is that what we want? But the real issue in this bill, and the real thing that this bill is dealing with, is advocacy. And even with the offense of homosexuality itself, when you are caught, there's the possibility of a fine. In fact, the fine starts from 750 penalty units, which is just 3,000 Ghana cedis. So a first-time offender could most likely get a 3,000 Ghana cedi fine and walk. But the real intent of the bill is to deal with advocacy. The likes of Techiwa Menu and Odrigajipo, yes, and Amanda Odoy, deal with those kinds of people, because these are people who themselves are straight, but are taking money from the gay lobby to try and indoctrinate our children. You've seen what on Twitter they call her Abrewanana, Deborah Vanessa. You see what she did? The video of her in a school.
Right.
The school invited her on career day to come and talk about, and the school have asked them that if you want an artist who has a career, is it Deborah Vanessa you invite? But they go and invite her. And when she gets there, she's asked questions on career, and she decides to go into telling 8-year-olds that a man can love a man and they should love anybody. That is a crime. It's a criminal offense to groom children without the permission of their parents. In this case, without the permission of the school.
Right.
It is this kind of work or advocacy that we are fighting. And for that one, once you do it, nobody needs, because you can't do advocacy in your bedroom.
Yes, it has to be
advocacy will be public. Once you do it, there is evidence of it. That one, we don't fine you. That one, you go to jail. Minimum sentence 5 years.
But Sam, our jails are already choked. That's another argument.
The jails are revolving door. People go in and people come out. Every day there are people being freed from the jails.
But then our jails now, if you look at our prisons, are choked.
Yes.
And that's one of the arguments that they've raised. That, look, why are you parking the place that is already choked?
So why are we jailing people who went to steal, who are hungry, and went and stole a bunch of plantain or stole a goat? We send them to the same jail. Why? Those people, don't they have rights? Don't they have a right to life? And can't you make the argument that because they were starving? This CDD, you see, when I tell you that their advocacy is financial, because nobody is providing money for advocacy, for community sentencing, for people who stole goats, petty thieves,
non-custodial sentences.
That one, they are not going to advocate for it because there's no money in it. They won't advocate. Have you heard the CDD and all of the professors, the gay lobby? Have you heard them? If their real interest is in pushing community sentence, non-custodial sentencing, for what they call petty misdemeanors, why have they not launched a campaign vigorously?
They say there's no money. There's no money.
There's no money in it. Nobody's
funding
funding that. Nobody's funding that. Look, the things people are advocating for are things that money is in. Legalization of marijuana, there's money in it. Homosexuality, there's money in it. It is financial. And we need to begin to call these people out for what they really are and what their real interest is, and expose them for the Ghanaian people to know. We call them Manjaloy.
Manjaloy.
Yes, Manjaloy. Adrama.
Let's again look at the future. I know you have to go for a meeting, but quickly, let's look at the future. How do we nip this in the bud? Because people will always be born with effeminate features. People will always be there to convince. I mean, we did Vox Pop and Bookom. I mean, we don't have too much time, so I may not be able to play while you're here. But they say, look, focus on the economic issues, bread and butter issues. We don't have food to eat. Our lights are going off. That's what you should be focused on, not these ones. This one, it doesn't concern you.
Do people know how many laws Parliament has passed to deal with economic issues in the past years? We have. So it's not as though Parliament is not doing any other thing and it's just LGBTQ we are talking about. We're doing every other thing as well. But you see, the people who make that argument are either uninformed or intentionally myopic. Why do I say so?
Tell me.
When you look at the cost of LGBTQ to the countries where they have legalized and liberalized it, you realize that it will collapse Ghana's economy.
It will?
Yes.
How?
Right now, you have states in the US that are clamping back because the cost for mental health for persons who've transgendered and persons engaged in LGBTQ, even in those countries where they have liberalized it, the mental health concerns and the cost to them for taking care of their mental health is growing. The young, I don't know how to call him a boy or girl, because he transgendered, who went into a classroom about 4 or 5 months ago in the US and shot up 22 children.
Yes, I remember that.
Mental condition from transgender. So when people say this is not a bread and butter issue, the safety of your children in their classroom, you think it's not a bread and butter issue? When the state, look at how the NHIS is struggling. We now have to start dealing with an increase in mental conditions and depression and suicidal thoughts. Do you know what that does to the economy of the country? There are people look at this thing as just a man and a man having private sex, or a woman and a woman. Nah, read, guys, read. Accepting LGBTQ imposes a cost on us in our healthcare system. So, look, you can choose to say that if you block it, there is the claim that it will affect investment. If you allow it, it also comes at a cost. So ask yourself, which of the costs are you willing and ready to bear? The cost that sells the innocence of your children, makes us lose our cultural identity, values, and tradition, and still imposes a huge cost on our healthcare system and on us, or the cost of saying that, look, this is what we stand for, this is who we are. And we've done this before. In 2011, God rest his soul, Professor John Evans Fifi Atamils, he looked David Cameron in the face and told him, if your British aid comes with LGBTQ constraints, take your money. We don't want it.
We played that tape this
Fantastic.
morning.
Has the UK government ceased its bilateral relations with Ghana?
No.
Since 2011, has the UK government not continued to support activities in Ghana? When you have a president that is bold, bold, like we say in our national anthem, to defend this country and stand for something. But when you have yes men and puppets of the gay lobby run this country,
Do you think the president is not bold, our president?
On this matter?
Yes.
The president has no balls. This thing is not about the MPP as a political party. It's about President Akufo-Addo and a few other people in government who made themselves puppets of the gay lobby.
And what would they gain, really?
I've told you what it is.
It's
It's
money.
already for them.
It's money, Sam George, I know you have to go. Thank you very much. Closing thoughts. I mean,
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this show as much as I did. It was just totally flat on, 100%. Sam George did it again, didn't he? He did it again. Only this time, I think, with everything put together, hopefully you get a clear understanding of what Africa is up against. Yes, $3.8 billion of aid has been suggestively canceled if Ghana goes ahead with this law and puts it enacts it and signed by the president. But thing that gets me, hear me out. A concerned citizen has now put a case against the Supreme Court. That sounds like a concerned politician. Maybe even a Western politician that maybe got in there and said, let's just do this. Let's do this. I think that the United States is behind and with Nana Akufo-Addo. I think the United States is kind of puppeteering the man. I don't know. That's just my thought. What really counts is what you think. And I just want to say, I want to thank you all for watching this. Hopefully you got educated, informed, and enjoyed this Speak and See show that we have for you tonight. And I want to say thank you all for subscribing and liking. We have become a beautiful family here. One love. And I just want to say I love you all. And I'm praying for you, praying for Africa as it continues to strive forward in the new independence in 2024. It started in 2023, broke the mold of what America and the Westerners and the colonizers were doing with Africa. That mold is broken, and I think this one right here with Sam George continues that trend moving forward in the direction that Africa wants to go. Well, what do you think? That's what counts. I want to thank you all for watching again. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.